You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start by recapping the 4 NFL playoff games that happened over the weekend. I'll go chronologically. That means I'm going to start with Rams-Packers. All in all, the Packers just outclassed the Rams. As impressive as the Rams' win was over the Seahawks, they're not in the same league as the Packers. Aaron Rodgers versus Jared Goff. As much as I like Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers is leaps and bounds better. Cam Akers or Aaron Jones? I like Cam Akers. I think he has a bright future in this league, but the answer right now is Aaron Jones. Davante Adams or Robert Woods? The answer is Davante Adams. The Rams are a good team. Very well-coached team. But at the end of the day, talent wins over scheme in the NFL. And because of that, Aaron Rodgers will be hosting his first ever NFC Championship game. I'm not kidding. With Rodgers on the team, the Green Bay Packers have never hosted an NFC Championship game. Isn't that crazy? Obviously, I'm going to get into Brady versus Breeze in a little while. But I'll give you a spoiler alert as to what I'm going to say. They're not as dominant as they once were. I think that's pretty obvious. It's not exactly the most profound thing I've ever said, but it's the truth. Aaron Rodgers may be just as dominant now at the age of 37 than he was when he was 28. He just destroyed this great Rams defense. Threw for just under 300 yards, was responsible for 3 touchdowns. What he did pre-snap is something that he's done his whole career. I tweeted this out at RealJacobValk, and it's the truth. There's no better quarterback in NFL history at managing what happens pre-snap than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you saw it on the Adams touchdown, the crazy motion. Adams gets free from Jalen Ramsey, and you can see that Ramsey's ticked off after the play. Jalen, you had no one to be ticked off at. Period. Don't get upset at yourself. Don't get upset at your teammates. Don't get upset at Brandon Staley. Don't get upset at anyone. You fell victim to something that this future Hall of Famer does better than anyone who's ever picked up a football. Controlling what happens at the line of scrimmage. Generating advantages for his team. forcing the defense to show their hand and capitalizing on those matchups. But you know what? That wasn't even my favorite play from Aaron Rodgers. My favorite play from Rodgers was the 1-yard touchdown run, where Rodgers gets everyone to bite with a pump fake, and then he runs it into the end zone. Perfectly done by Rodgers. Leonard Floyd was so confused, it looked like he was playing 2K. You know how when you're playing 2K, you have players leaping up for blocks like crazy? That's what Floyd looked like out there. I'm not blaming Floyd for falling victim to the pump fake, but Rodgers did make Floyd look foolish on that play. And then the opening drive of the second half, Aaron Jones runs roughshod over the Rams. In the fourth quarter, the big touchdown to Allen Lazard, who was the Packers' best wide receiver on Saturday. He had 4 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. He was better than Adams. Adams had 9 catches, but only for 66 yards. The Packers did a great job of sharing the load on offense. Jones got involved. Jamal Williams got involved. A.J. Dillon got involved before he got hurt. Lazard got involved. Adams got involved. Robert Tonyan got involved. Marquise Valdez-Scantling got involved. The game that you saw on Saturday was a surgical dissection of a great defense from one of the best players in NFL history. As for the Rams, they really got here because of their defense. Their defense really stifled Russell Wilson. They had the best defense in the league this year. And they end up giving up 32 points in a divisional round game. That's a bad job by the Rams, but you can't get too upset about it. Again, they were going up against Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers was on point. It was a fantastic performance. He was probably the best player of the weekend. There's no shame in falling victim to him. It leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth, there's no question, but it's not like you got torn to shreds by Jordan Love. At the end of the day, the Rams lost to a better team. There's not much shame in that. It's okay to be upset at the loss if you're a Rams fan, but it was to be expected that you lost. Afterwards, though, Sean McVay did make some interesting comments. He didn't commit to Jared Goff as the Rams starter next year. Now, I understand that the Rams only put up 18 points, but Goff was pretty good, completed 21 of his 27 passes for 174 yards. He threw a touchdown. He was sacked 4 times. Okay, you know what? The Rams' offensive line was garbage. And you gotta realize, Goff was playing with an injured thumb. That thumb is not at 100%. But Goff gutted it out. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. I've seen Jared Goff play better. But it wasn't his fault that the Rams lost on Saturday. The reason that the Rams lost was because Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers. I'm not even getting on the Rams defense for not showing up. I mean, the one guy who I'll get on is Aaron Donald. He had a really bad game. That may be the worst game I've ever seen Aaron Donald play. The guy no-showed. But John Johnson played well. Michael Brockers played well. Troy Reeder played well. This wasn't the Rams defense folding. This was the Rams defense falling victim to a future Hall of Famer. That's why they lost. It's not on Jared Goff. Now, I think Jared Goff will be the Rams starting quarterback next year, but let's run with this scenario for a minute. Let's say Sean McVay really wants to move on from Goff. There's no question that Goff would suffer without McVay, but I do think he would still be a really good quarterback. Jared Goff is not great. As much as I like Goff, he's not a great quarterback. He's not in the Rodgers, Mahomes, and Wilson tier. He's in a tier below. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. He's really good. And if you take him away from McVay, he'll suffer, but he'll still produce. There would be a lot of teams knocking down the door for Jared Goff if McVay was dead set on moving on from him. But again, I really think Goff is going to be the Rams starter next year. And I think that's a good thing. Moving on now to Ravens-Bills. By far and away, the worst playoff game of the four this weekend. Lamar Jackson, absolutely dreadful, then gets hurt. Josh Allen, not bad, but not great. I've seen Allen play better than how he played on Saturday. This was supposed to be a battle of two of the NFL's best young quarterbacks. It turned into a defensive slugfest. Don Martindale versus Leslie Frazier. And ultimately, Frazier won. Guys like Justin Zimmer, Jerry Hughes, Harrison Phillips, Josh Norman, Levi Wallace, Mario Addison, Teron Johnson, AJ Klein, and Vernon Butler all showed up for the Bills on Saturday. They made Jackson look terrible. And now all the people who shut up after Jackson beat the Titans are coming back and saying, see, look, Lamar Jackson can't lead your team far into the playoffs. Maybe he can win a game, maybe two, but you're never going to win a Super Bowl with him. This is as good as the Ravens can be. And there's no question that Lamar Jackson was dreadful on Saturday. A really disappointing performance for him. Completed just 14 of his 24 passes for 162 yards and an interception. That was the pick six by Teron Johnson. And that pick six was the turning point of the game. It wasn't the Jackson injury. That moment when Johnson picked the ball off in the end zone, the Ravens had a drive going. It was their best drive of the game. It's 10-3 Bills at this point. A touchdown ties it. They went on a 13-play drive. It took over 8 minutes. And it ended with Teron Johnson recording a 101-yard pick six. That tied the record for longest interception return in NFL history. That was the turning point of the game, not the Jackson injury. That pick six killed all the momentum that the Ravens had. After that, the Ravens were on life support. And then Jackson gets injured trying to recover a botched snap. He's replaced by Tyler Huntley, who wasn't awful. He wasn't great or anything. But here's a guy who's appearing in just his third NFL game. A guy whose only NFL duty before the weekend was in a mop-up role. The guy only had 5 pass attempts to his name. He comes in and doesn't embarrass himself. Completed 6 of his 13 passes for 60 yards, 3 carries for 32 yards. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. But there is a real question that the Ravens need to answer. How can they get Lamar Jackson over the hump in the playoffs? Lamar Jackson is going to be their quarterback for a really long time. You don't want a Phillip Rivers situation where this guy just gets you into the AFC Conference Championship game and that's it. That would be the ultimate injustice. The thing is, there's no easy answer for what the Ravens need to do to win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. The obvious answer is be better with his arm, but that's a very tall ask. The reality is, even last year, his MVP year, Jackson wasn't great with his arm. Yes, he led the NFL in touchdown passes, but a lot of those were short touchdown passes. You know how many yards Jackson threw for when he won his MVP? 3,127. He may never have a true NFL arm. Now, does he make up for it with his legs? Yes. But, as you saw on Saturday, that's not foolproof. The Bills' defense yesterday limited the Ravens' vaunted rushing attack to just 150 yards. That's not going to get the job done for the Ravens. For other teams, yes. Not the Ravens. Gus Edwards was ineffective. J.K. Dobbins was ineffective. Lamar Jackson was ineffective. Their best runner on Saturday was Tyler Huntley. The Bills' defense was fantastic. There's a reason that Leslie Frazier got head coaching buzz. But it speaks to a bigger issue with Lamar Jackson. Maybe his skill set just isn't conducive to NFL playoff success. How many scrambling quarterbacks have won Super Bowls? The best running quarterback to win a Super Bowl may be Russell Wilson. But even then, Wilson has a fantastic arm. He's really good with his legs, but he's great with his arm. Have there been running quarterbacks to lose a Super Bowl? No question. Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, Steve McNair. But all those guys had better arms than Lamar Jackson. It's a legitimate take to say that Lamar Jackson just doesn't have what it takes to win in the playoffs. Maybe he'll win a game or two. But as far as getting to the Super Bowl and winning it, I don't know if he ever will. And I'm not sure it's something that can be fixed. For whatever reason, when this guy plays under the bright lights, he folds like a cheap suit. He may be great in nationally televised regular season games. I remember him tearing up the Jets on a Thursday night game. But as far as the playoffs go, he's terrible. I'm not sure if there's a fix for Lamar Jackson's playoff ineptitude. Moving on now to Browns-Chiefs. By far and away, the best game of the weekend. So many great moments. You've got the Mahomes read option for a touchdown, and then he throws the ball practically out of the stadium. You've got Rashard Higgins diving for the end zone, and Daniel Sorensen jars the ball loose. It results in a touchback. You've got Patrick Mahomes leaving the game with a concussion. Chad Henne comes in. Chad freaking Henne. His first ever NFL playoff game. A guy who, excluding the last game of the season, had only thrown 11 passes since 2015. And Henne somehow finds a way to lead the Chiefs to victory. You've got the epic 13-yard run on 3rd and 14. You've got the completion to Tyreek Hill on 4th and inches. No one in the building thought the Chiefs were going to go for that. Tony Romo, the closest thing we have to Nostradamus, didn't think the Chiefs were going to go for it. Romo was wrong. I don't think Romo has ever been wrong before in predicting a play. He was saying they didn't even call a play in the huddle. He's going to try to draw the Browns off sides. And he's saying to everyone, do not jump the snap, whatever you do. But Andy Reid had the guts to go for it. This is by far and away the best playoff game we've had all year. And as far as recent NFL history goes, it's right up there with the Chiefs' wins from last year. It's right up there with Chiefs-Patriots in the AFC title game. It's right up there with Patriots-Seahawks. This is a game that we're going to talk about for a really, really long time. Anything is possible. Now, there are a lot of things to break down when it comes to this game. Namely, Browns' heartbreak. The Browns have had a lot of devastating moments throughout their history. the drive, the fumble, losing their team to Baltimore, failing to find a franchise quarterback until Baker Mayfield, 0-16. They have had some incredibly bad moments. You've got 3 moments from yesterday's game that are right up there with the drive and the fumble. You've got the Higgins fumble. You've got the 13-yard run from an ancient quarterback. And you've got the 4th down conversion from an ancient quarterback. 3 heartbreaking moments for Browns fans. Last year, I did Decades of Dumbass Decisions, where I came up with the 16 worst things that happened in New York Jets history. If a Cleveland Browns fan did Decades of Dumbass Decisions prior to yesterday's game, he now has to revise it. Because this is one of the worst losses in Browns history. I mean, reaching for the goal line like Higgins did is so risky. Bill Belichick hates it. Belichick tells all his Patriots, do not reach for the goal line. Unless you absolutely have to. It's the game on the line, 4th and goal, 1 second on the clock. Do not reach for the goal line. Higgins reached for it. And Daniel Sorensen, who's always around when there's a big Chiefs defensive play, jarred the ball loose. Was it helmet to helmet? Yes. Did I really mind it? The answer is no. I understand by the letter of the law that's helmet to helmet, it's a personal foul. The Browns get the ball 1st and goal at the 1. Regardless of the fact that Higgins fumbled it. I get that. But what do you want Sorensen to do in that spot, man? He's got Higgins diving for the end zone. He's horizontal. Sorensen needs to find a way to stop him. What's his closest body part? It is the head. It was helmet to helmet. I'm not saying it wasn't. And it is the kind of thing that the NFL is trying to get out of the game. But I gotta be honest with you, I didn't have too much of a problem with it. That's not the thing that Browns fans should be upset about. They should be upset at the fumble. Everyone was talking about, oh, it's helmet to helmet. How do you not call that? How is that not reviewable? You looked at everything else. How are you not reviewing that? What's going on here? That is the kind of thing that the competition committee should make reviewable. There's no question. If they're that gung-ho on getting that out of the game, make it reviewable. But that's not what I'd be upset about if I was a Browns fan. I'd be more upset at the fumble rule. You fumble it out of the back of the end zone, and it's a touchback. The other team gets possession. Only in the end zone does that happen. If you fumble the ball and it goes out of bounds, you get possession of the ball. I mean, I understand why that rule is there, but it is a stupid rule. It does need to be changed. Jeff Schwartz, the former offensive lineman, wrote an article for SB Nation on December 19th, 2017, about how to fix this rule. We all remember how Derek Carr got screwed over by it. That was the impetus for Schwartz writing the article. The article is prescient once again. Here are Schwartz's 3 ideas. Number 1, the ball comes back to the original line of scrimmage, but with a loss of down. I don't hate that idea, but we can do better. The offense keeps the ball at the spot of the fumble. I like that idea. That's similar to what we have on fumbles anywhere else on the football field. There's a loss of down, but the offense gets it back. Now, Schwartz doesn't like that idea because if an offensive player fumbles near the goal line when he's not reaching out and the ball bounces out of the end zone, he thinks that everyone thinks that should be a touchback. Well, if we're just talking about reaching out, that's really finicky. See, I would disagree with Schwartz's point that everyone thinks if you're not reaching out and you fumble it and it goes out of the back of the end zone, that should be a touchback. I don't think reaching out has anything to do with it. If a fumble happens anywhere else on the football field, reaching out isn't an issue. I don't think reaching out is an issue when it comes to this rule. Schwartz likes the idea of the defense getting the ball at the spot of the fumble. I do not like that. Because realistically, all a defense did there is force a fumble. That's great. Fantastic. Good job, defense. But that's half the battle. The other half of the battle is getting the fumble recovery. The defense didn't get a fumble recovery. There are some people who say if the defense forces a fumble and it goes out of bounds, that it should be the defense's ball. The offense didn't get a fumble recovery either. But I think the onus is on the defense to take the ball away, not just jar it loose. I like the idea of the offense keeping the ball at the spot of the fumble, regardless of what the offensive player was doing, if he was reaching out or not reaching out. Like I said, I don't think reaching out has anything to do with it. So that's an easy fix. Another easy fix, something that if you were Joe Woods, you probably had running through your head all throughout the night. The 13-yard run by Chad Henne. How do you allow Chad Henne to run for 13 yards on 3rd and 14? This is Chad Henne we're talking about. This guy is 35 years old. The longest run he's had in the NFL since 2015 has been for 3 yards. That changed yesterday. Now it's 13. You're watching Henne scramble and he's running for it and you're thinking, alright, he's just going to get a few yards. Someone's going to pick him up, right? Then you're watching the play unfold. Someone's going to bring him down, right? No one is there to stop him. I understand you're not playing QB spy in that position. You're not counting on Chad Henne to run for the first down. That's fine. But you're telling me that no one could work backwards and bring him down? They all see him running. They all have their heads turned to watch Henne, or at least they should as defensive players. When you see Henne running for it, turn back. Go after him. Make him make a throw on the run. Before that, Henne had thrown a terrible interception to Carl Joseph. It looked like Joseph was fielding a kickoff. You've got to make Henne make that throw. You can't just let him run free for 13 yards. That is an absolutely terrible job by the Browns defense. A defensive lineman should have been able to break free. A linebacker should have been able to pick him up. A defensive back should have been able to pick him up. A terrible job by the Browns defense. And then the coup de grace. The excellent play call by Andy Reid. The trust that he had in Henne. Everyone's thinking, alright, he's just trying to draw the Browns off sides. They're just going to end up taking a penalty or calling a timeout with a second left. They're going to try to pin Mayfield back, and they're going to trust their defense. I mean, Mayfield was solid, completed 23 of his 37 passes for 204 yards and a touchdown. But the Chiefs did a great job of taking away his primary options. Jarvis Landry had 7 catches, but only for 20 yards. Austin Hooper had just 2 catches for 16 yards. Chubb was ineffective catching the ball. Same thing with Kareem Hunt. The only guys who showed up as pass catchers for the Browns yesterday was Rashard Higgins and David Njoku. Those aren't the guys you want leading your team in a 2-minute drill. So taking all that into account, everyone thinks the Chiefs are going to punt this ball. They go for it. And it's a perfect pass to Tyreek Hill. He goes down in bounds. Beautifully done. Absolutely beautifully done by Andy Reid. Give Chad Henne all the credit in the world for coming up big when his team needed him, making 2 huge plays. Give Darrell Williams credit. Give Travis Kelce credit. The Chiefs won a really hard-fought game here. There is one more thing to get into before I talk about Buccaneers Saints. And that is the reason why Chad Henne was in the game in the first place. Patrick Mahomes had to leave with a concussion. And it was scary watching the immediate aftermath of that. He looked dazed. It looked like he didn't know where he was. It was really scary. Now, he ran off into the locker room under his own power. But you've got to give the NFL and the Chiefs credit for not letting Mahomes back in. You got to think Mahomes was pushing to go back into that game. I want to lead my team. I got us here. Let me finish this. As we all know, concussions are scary. You really can't mess around when it comes to that. Better safe than sorry. I mean, there was a time just 20 years ago, maybe more recently, where Mahomes would have been allowed back in. And that would have been 100% wrong. Now, the NFL has better systems in place, so Mahomes wasn't allowed back in. The Chiefs implemented them perfectly, And now Mahomes can gear up for Buffalo. I don't know if he's going to be allowed to play against the Bills, but I promise you, the Chiefs are going to do right by him. They're not going to sacrifice his future for this one game. And you know what? Henny showed that he can lead the Chiefs to victory. Like I said, anything's possible. Alright, now on to Buccaneers Saints. And I gotta tell ya, watching this game, I was sad. You have these two great quarterbacks. Two guys who, if you wanted to put them on your Mount Rushmore of best quarterbacks ever, that'd be perfectly fine. Everyone's talking about Brady versus Breeze. Look at the history. Appreciate what you're watching here. You could tell people that that wasn't Tom Brady and that wasn't Drew Brees under center yesterday, and they'd believe you, because they were shells of their former selves. Brady was solid. He did enough to win. He took on a game manager role, which is okay. I can accept that. Is that going to work against the Packers? No. But given how Drew Brees played, yeah, Brady doesn't need to push things. He can be a game manager. I mean, Brees just looked cooked yesterday. It was really sad. It's sad that this is the last game of his career. I mean, there were some nice moments. Brees saying to Jameis Winston, "This is your team now." Him looking back as he's going into the tunnel. Him talking to Brady after the game and Brady throwing a touchdown pass to Brees' kid. Those are nice moments and all, but the reality is, when we think back about this game, I don't think that's what we're going to think about. We're going to think about Brees' 3 interceptions and how bad he looked. The Saints just couldn't get anything going on offense. Their best play was the trick play. Jameis Winston to Tre'Quan Smith. Fantastically done. Other than that, though, the Saints didn't get much going. Brees completed just 19 of his 34 passes for 134 yards. That's it. You had check down after check down after check down. It was an incredibly boring game. You had a tough time getting into that game. I mean, you saw Brees miss passes that he never would have missed in his prime. He had the one good drive to start off the second half. The perfect ball placement to Tre'Quan Smith. Whoop-de-doo. You know what? He had one good throw the whole game. It was just 5-yard pass after 5-yard pass after 5-yard pass. That's not going to get the job done. Watching this game, I was reminded of Dan Marino. Dan Marino's last ever NFL game was a divisional round game on January 15th, 2000 against the Jaguars. The Jaguars humiliated Marino. The Dolphins lost 62-7. Marino's first pass completion that game was with 10 minutes and 48 seconds left in the second quarter. It was a 3-yard pass to Oronde Gadsden. Marino threw 2 interceptions. He completed just 11 of his 25 passes for 95 yards. Brees' game yesterday wasn't as bad as Marino's last game, but let me tell you, it was close. I really hope Brees calls it quits. It's nothing against Brees. I like Brees. I'm looking out for him. He has nothing left to prove. He took the Saints as far as he could take them. Right off into the sunset. You've had a fantastic career. You're a first ballot Hall of Famer. Enjoy NBC. Enjoy life after football. You deserve it. But you know what? It's gotten to the point where it may be in the Saints' best interests to say to Brees, if he wants to run it back, okay, but we're not going to start you. They may be better off starting Winston or starting Hill. That's how bad Brees has looked. I understand you don't want that to be the last game of your career. But it's very rare that you get to go out on top like Peyton Manning. More often than not, you're going out with a loss. Maybe a better performance, but still a loss. The reality is, it's in everyone's best interests for Drew Brees to retire right now. And I'm saying that as someone who likes Drew Brees. I'm looking out for him here. There are some other NFL stories to talk about. The first is that it's looking very, very, very likely that Deshaun Watson is going to be traded. According to Adam Schefter of ESPN, there's a growing sense from people in and around the Texans that he's played his last snap for the team. If that is true, the New York Jets need to get him. If they can't move up one spot for Trevor Lawrence, they need to get Deshaun Watson. And they have the draft capital to do it. They have 4 first-rounders in the next 2 years. They have 6 draft picks in the first 98. The Houston Texans are desperate for draft capital. 2nd overall for Deshaun Watson. Who says no? Maybe the Texans don't do it straight up for 2nd overall, but you've got something there. That can be the start of a really good package. Now, I don't know what exactly the package would be. I've seen some people say it could cost the Jets 3 first-rounders. But they have 4 first-rounders in the next 2 years. And they're going to recoup some value when they trade Sam Darnold. You want to tell me it's going to cost a lot of money? The Jets have the cap space for it. And it's not like Deshaun Watson isn't worth it. This guy's one of the 5 or 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. This guy led the NFL in passing yards this year. He's made the Pro Bowl 3 straight years. He's shown that he can succeed in the playoffs. He's only 25 years old. Every team in the NFL that needs a quarterback should be in on Deshaun Watson. But no team can offer a better package than the Jets. I don't want to hear about Justin Fields. I don't want to hear about Zach Wilson. Deshaun Watson is better than Fields and Wilson will ever be. If the Jets can't move up one spot so they can take Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson better be a Jet. No excuses. Get the trade done as quickly as possible. You're not in a position where you can wait. You can't wait to make a trade for a franchise quarterback. Don't let a team like the Dolphins swoop in and get him. Joe Douglas, I'm talking to you. You need to get Deshaun Watson ASAP. Moving on now to the Chargers, hiring Brandon Staley to be their next head coach. And this is kind of surprising because it was reported earlier that Brian Daboll was the favorite for Chargers head coach, but they decided to go with Staley. I like this move. The Chargers were probably going to go defense because all the reports coming out of LA was that Justin Herbert really liked his offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen. The Chargers wanted to keep him around. If you hire an offensive guy, he may not want to keep Steichen around, or he may call the plays himself. With a defensive coordinator coming in now to be head coach, he's probably going to keep Steichen. The Rams had the best defense in the NFL last year, and Staley was a big part of that. Yes, he had tremendous talent like Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, etc., but Staley did some really creative things on defense. And I think guys like Derwin James, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Linval Joseph, Casey Hayward, and Chris Harris Jr. are going to thrive under Staley. I'm not crazy about his inexperience. From 2015 to 2016, he was John Carroll's defensive coordinator / secondary coach. That's a D3 school. Then from 17 to 18, he was the Bears outside linebackers coach. He went to the Broncos in 19 to be their outside linebackers coach. Then McVay gave him a shot as his defensive coordinator, and now he's Chargers head coach. This guy's 38 years old. This does come with some risk. But I do think it will pay off. If they were going to go defense, I would have preferred Matt Eberflus or Don Martindale. But I think Staley will do a solid job. Everyone wants to find the next Sean McVay so badly that they're going to hire his defensive coordinator now. This can work, though. There's no question about that. Alright, now I'll give you some MLB Valk talk. And I'll start with a couple Yankee stories. The first is the Corey Kluber signing. The Yankees signed him to a one-year deal worth $11 million. And this makes sense for the Yankees. We all know how talented Corey Kluber is. This guy has won 2 Cy Youngs, is a 3-time All-Star. Not that long ago, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. Then, he got hurt. Since 2019, he's only made 8 starts. This is a high-risk, high-reward move for the Yankees. But it makes sense. If Kluber stays healthy, there's nothing stopping him from getting 18 wins with this team. If he doesn't stay healthy, the Yankees just wasted $11 million. 11 mil is more than I would have given Kluber in a perfect world. But I saw some reports saying that the bidding was in the 8 figures. The Yankees weren't even the highest bidder. So, hey, c'est la vie. You did some good things in manipulating your flexibility pertaining to the luxury tax when you signed LeMahieu to 6 years. You can afford to give Kluber a little more money. But there is one thing that needs to be pointed out. Before this signing, the Yankees' rotation was Cole, Herman, Montgomery, Garcia, and maybe Clark Schmidt. Now, you replace Corey Kluber with that maybe. That is the correct decision by Brian Cashman. There is no question that the Yankees needed rotation help. The thing is, there's still a big question mark. There's just as big a question mark with Kluber penciled into the rotation as there would have been in penciling Schmidt into the rotation. I understand it's a different kind of question mark. Again, I really like this move. It makes a ton of sense. Cole, Herman, Kluber, Montgomery, and Garcia sounds like a pretty good rotation. There is some risk, though. And I would like the Yankees to go after another starter. But it doesn't seem like that starter's going to be Luis Castillo. There were some rumblings coming from some of the Latin American baseball reporters that a trade of Castillo to the Yankees was really close. But John Heyman poured cold water on that today by saying that the Reds wanted Gleyber Torres. Obviously, the Yankees said no. Now it seems like Castillo's gonna stay a Red. It would have made perfect sense for the Yankees to go after Castillo. He's one of the most underrated players in baseball. Last year he went 4-6 with a 3.21 ERA. The year before he made the All-Star team, went 15-8 with a 3.4 ERA. This guy could be the ace on some teams. With the Yankees, he'd be a number 2 starter. Think about this rotation for a minute. Cole, Castillo, Herman, Kluber, Montgomery. That has the potential to be a great rotation. It made perfect sense for the Yankees to ask about Castillo, but if the Reds really wanted Gleyber Torres, then yes, you say no to that deal. That is the correct decision by Brian Cashman. Gleyber Torres is untouchable, and quite frankly, it ticks me off that teams are still asking about him. Now, Cashman shouldn't give up asking about Castillo. Be relentless, be a pit bull. But be prepared to make other arrangements. On my New York Yankees offseason preview, I said that I'd go after Marco Gonzalez. You know what? I'd still go after Marco Gonzalez. Would Castillo be a better option? Yes. But the Reds would need to be amenable to a Frazier and Andujar type package. Get Gleyber Torres out of your head. That's not happening. And obviously I would give up that package for Gonzalez in a minute. Again, though, without Gleyber Torres. The last baseball story to talk about concerns the Red Sox signing Martin Perez to a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. This move makes sense for the Red Sox. Perez is a decent lefty, solid innings eater. Last year for the Red Sox, he went 3-5 with a 4.5 ERA. The reality is, you live with that when you're talking about a lefty pitcher. Perez should be better at getting righties out. There's no question in a perfect world that would be the case. But he's solid against lefties. And you can live with him as an innings eater in the back end of the rotation. $4.5 million? That's fine. I can live with that. It's a solid move by the Red Sox. It's not a great move, but it does make sense. Brooklyn Nets show comes your way tonight. Regular episodes of the Jacob Valk Show come your way every weekday afternoon. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that the real thrill in playing in an old-timers game is to finish it.